It's good to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy. Back to Hometown Commander for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I take my first pass at the commander in front of us on a budget on my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. That deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe. Consider checking out those links in the description. Let me know what commanders you want to see in the channel down in the comment section below. But today, we're celebrating Halloween week. And I don't know, man, but the Wraiths from Lord of the Rings always seem like they're straight out of a horror movie to me. And I also just personally really like this commander. So we're going to take an updated look at Lord of the Nazgul, a 5-mana Dimir Wraith Noble. It says all of our Wraiths are going to have protection from Ring Bearers. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcerer, we're going to make a 3/3 black Wraith with Menace. And then if we have 9 or more Wraiths, all the Wraiths we control become 9/9s until end of turn. Lord of Nazgul is like a lot of the very popular spell-slinging commanders that make tokens whenever you cast spells. The difference between a lot of spell-slinging decks in this deck is, well, Nazgul. And Nazgul are a very interesting creature we'll talk about in a second. They really make this deck what it is. It also really allows us to have a nice and powerful way to really make our Wraiths a problem for our opponents. Not only because they have Menace, but because of the Nazgul's abilities. And we're just going to try to get in there and get the job done. But I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos just a little bit earlier for just $1 a month to support the channel, consider checking me out down below. But okay, let's talk about the Nazgul, because arguably they're some of the best cards in the deck. Nazgul is a 3-mana 1/2. We can have 9 of them in our library, so we're going to play all 9 of them. Guarantees we see a better chance of them, right? Whenever a Nazgul enters the battlefield, we're going to have the ring tempt us. And whenever the ring tempts us, we put a counter on each Wraith you control. So, because all of our commanders are Wraith and all of these tokens they're making are Wraiths, that means all of our Wraiths grow. And so, the more Nazgul we see, the more they grow. Because remember, every time the ring tempts you, each Nazgul you control is going to put a counter on each Wraith you control. And we're going to try to get this out of hand in a couple ways. Things like Roaming Throne can double up Nazgul's ability. And in a second, we'll talk about ways we have in the deck to copy or blink Nazgul to make it happen again. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Whether you choose to copy Lord of the Nazgul or you choose to copy a Nazgul, we're basically going to try to, put a bunch of value on the board. There are certain things like, there are certain of these copiers like Sekishima and Spark Double and Chameleon that can come in as a copy of Lord of Nazgul, and they won't count against the legend rule, and then you're going to get to the 9th threshold faster. I think it's going to come down to what you see in your hand. Like, there's going to be the hands where you have a lot of spells and you don't see the Nazguls, and in those cases, I think these are a better choice to come in as a copy of Lord of Nazgul. But if you see a lot of Nazguls, I think these could be great to come in as a copy of Nazgul and just ramp your board up very quickly. Arenicus can make a legendary, non-legendary. Energy conversion turns every creature becomes a copy of that creature till end of turn, except it isn't legendary. The important thing to note about an energy conversion is that it will turn, to my knowledge, every creature on the battlefield into that thing, which is something to think twice about. But remember that when the ring tempts you, Nazgul only puts counters on your Wraith. So, I mean, if you turned an entire board of creatures into a Nazgul, it's not like your opponent's Nazguls would grow. Quasi-Duplicate, of course, can copy Nazgul. Cackling Counterpart, Planar Incision. So, Cackling Counterpart can make a copy of Nazgul. Planar Incision and Teferi's Time Twist are blink spells. They're going to basically just exile a Nazgul and bring it back in. So, to re-trigger the entry ability, re-trigger that to go off. And so, you can start to see where that part of the deck can become really nasty with even just 2 Nazgul. But the rest of the deck, I honestly think we just want it as low to the ground as possible. Cheap spells that draw us cards, give us value. Birthday Escape lets us draw a card and the ring tempts us. So if a Nazgul's out, right, that means more counters. Ponder, classic blue draw spell. Look at the top 3. You can put them back in any order and shuffle if you want, draw a card. Enter the Enigma can make a creature unblockable this turn and draws a card. Preordain, scry 2 and draw. Ring Sight lets the ring tempt us, and then search a library for a card that shares a color with a legendary creature we control. So with Lord of the Nazgul out, this can get us any blue or black card in our deck. Predator's Hour is kind of a fun one. All of our creatures are probably going to already have Menace, or all the 3/3 Wraiths will. But it adds the nice ability that whenever this creature hits a player, so this goes to all your creatures, you exile the top card of that player's library face down, and we can play that spell for as long as it's in exile, which is a fun ability and can really start thieving some things for our opponents. Serum Visions, draw cards, scry 2, Sign in Blood, draw 2, lose 2, slip through space, creature can't be blocked, draw a card. You can start to see these cheap 1-2 mana draws that are continue to dig us through our deck while making us Wraiths. Brainstorm, Consider, Impulse. I mean, I think you can just start to see that this is what we're seeing from the deck. Leap, which can give a creature flying, Opt, Peek, cheap spells we're trying to churn out a couple of turn to make these Wraiths to get to that 9 number. Soothing Asmigo can bring a non-token creature back to your hand in the Ring Tempt You. It's important to have some of these Ring Tempt You spells because if there's a Nazgul out, that's going to allow it to go off again. C-Double, again, can either copy a spell or make a token that's a copy of a creature. Copy a spell is fun because you can just copy a Nazgul if you want to or something else, or copy a key spell you need. Otherwise, you can just make another copy of a Nazgul, and it works out great in that sense. Note that if you have 8 or more cards in the opponent's graveyard, you can do both. So I think you get the concept. Make the Wraiths, pair them up with the Nazguls for the counters, try to become a threat with them becoming 9/9s. But there's some other pieces we can add to just help us along the way. Professor Onyx is going to have each opponent lose 2, and we're going to gain 2 whenever we cast or copy an instant or sorcery. Really nice. Her +1 can also dig through our deck if we want to find a Nazgul. Eldrazi Monument gives all of our creatures +1/+1 flying and indestructible. And at the beginning of our upkeep, we have to sack a creature. If we can't, we lose the monument. Again, hopefully we have enough of the non-Nazgul Wraiths to just sacrifice. The monument should just help protect all of our Wraiths from destruction. It would just be exile removal at that point. But again, flying is going to add a ton of hurt for our opponents. Glamdring feels like really fun for Lord of the Nazgul, giving it first strike and then a buff for each instant sorcery in our graveyard. Although we can attach this to anything, right? And then whenever that crypt creature hits a player in combat, you can cast an instant or sorcery from your hand with mana value less than equal to the number of damage without paying its mana cost. So now we can get an extra spell cast from our hand. Important thing about Glamdring is because it does give the creature first strike, this could actually cause you to cast spell from your hand that would turn all your Wraiths into 9/9s before regular strike damage, which is kind of interesting, right? So kind of keep that in the back of your brain. Cover of Darkness, giving them all fear, stopping them from being blocked except by artifact creatures or black creatures. Moonlit Mediation might be one of my favorite random new cards for this deck. You enchant an artifact or creature you control, and the first time you'd create 1 or more tokens each turn, you make copies of that instead. So basically, you put this on a Nazgul, and then the first spell you're casting each turn just makes a token of the Nazgul, which, again, is arguably better 100% over that 3/3 Wraith all day, every day. So again, you're going to start to see where you just pack in some other value. And then, Phyrexian Ray can help us dig deeper each turn, drawing an extra card. And then we have things like Minas Morgul and the Blackgate, which should just help one of our creatures become a little bit harder to block. Minas Morgul for 4 mana can put a shadow counter on a target creature, and as long as it has a shadow counter on it, it's a Wraith, so a shadow counter creature can only block or be blocked by creatures with shadow. And then the Blackgate, as long as we have as long as we pick a player with the most life or tied for the most life, one of our creatures just can't be blocked by that player. So again, you could potentially guarantee a big hit by a Nazgul or one of our Wraiths. But again, Minas Morgul's better with the shadow, especially on something like Lord of Nazgul, as being a commander damage threat. But again, just ways to make our Wraiths a little bit sneakier. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again, no deck's ever complete. Although we have looked at Lord of Nazgul in the past, this time around, I think I fixed a lot of the problems, but going into testing, you do have something like Sam's Desperate Rescue, which could get a Nazgul back from your graveyard, back to your hand, tempt you, and then let you obviously still be able to play that Nazgul, right? Raise the Palisades, a nice one-sided board wipe. Truthfully, I almost feel like we're not going to need it. The 3/3 Wraiths have Menace. They're going to be hard to block to begin with. Your creatures are just going to get so big that I feel like our opponents are going to have a tough time blocking us. I guess the nice thing about the Palisade would be that it would help kind of pave the way, but that's what I kind of like about something like Eldrazi Monument. But again, I like the idea of something like Wraiths Palisade. And then my thought was like Mockingbird, something that can come in as a copy, something that can come in and copy Nazgul. You could also look at things like Phyrexian Metamorph or Glasspool Mimic, some of these creatures that just come in as a copy of a creature you control. And again, you want to come in as a copy of Nazgul. have it come in, trigger all your Nazgul. I mean, this is an ecosystem. The first time you see it go off, it's going to surprise you at how quickly it can get out of hand. And so we could think about more creatures like that, right, in order to do it. But let's do what we love to do on the channel the most and get into our playtests. Remember, the goal of playtests on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not just to show off all our best plays, but let's get in some gameplay scenarios and kind of understand what hands we're going to look into keep and how we're going to rock it. So here, I've got a 4-lander. We see Nazgul, we see Cover of Darkness, and we see Sakashima. So I was going to say, ideally, we want to see some spells, and we see one here in Shadow Rift. So target creature gets shadowed until end of turn. We talked about Shadow on Minas Morgul, right? So that can give it a creature that for the turn, and then we draw a card, right? So here, I almost think it's Nazgul. Nazgul is going to get a counter. It's also going to be our ring bearer for the moment. And then the ring's going to tempt us. So right now it's going to be on, it's legendary, can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. Come to this turn, and I think we just get the Lord of Nazgul in, right? And then we can attack with the Nazgul if we want to. I don't really see the benefit of it right now. So now the question is, remember, Lord of the Nazgul only goes off on non-creature spells, right? So, I could Night's Whisper and draw. The problem is if I don't hit a land, I can't do something like Sakashima, but I could go with, something like Cover of Darkness. So I think I'm going to Night's Whisper. That's going to draw me 2, but it's going to make me that Wraith. 3 mana left. There's the Soaring, which helps. Talisman. I mean, I have a couple of these. My thought is Cover of Darkness, calling Wraiths. So again, now they can't be blocked except by artifact creatures or black creatures. And then I think I might just leap the Nazgul. The Flying till end of turn, draw a card. And now, both these attack. We're at 4 Wraiths. We're starting to really build the board up. Again, now the key thing is we really want to just find another Nazgul, right? Again, Sakashima can come in as a copy of Nazgul. What I'm trying to do is get as many Wraiths out as possible before I start that. So let's start the Serum Visions, draw a card, scry 2, draw a card. I think I'm going to put both of these on the bottom. I think right now we're just, we're mega digging for more Nazgul. So that's 1 mana down. We'll take a second one down for the Shadow Rift. We'll give Lord of the Nazgul Shadow. And then we draw a card, right? So I'm out of spells to play except this Deadly Dispute. So if I Sakashima the Lord of the Nazgul, that gives me 7 Wraiths, and any other spell cast would give me 2 more Wraiths, but I do have to sack a creature to the Deadly Dispute. Well, I guess I could sack an artifact. Whereas if I Sakashima Nazgul, this comes in, puts 2 counters on everything, and then we can just hold up removal and just pound our opponents this turn. I mean, 2 of them came in this turn, but the other 2 are going to be 5/5s with Menace and Fear. That seems like an overwhelmingly good time. The ring's also going to go off twice more, so now we're up to, whenever we attack, we draw and then pitch 1, and then whenever it becomes blocked by a creature, that player sacrifices it. So this Nazgul should be pretty much guaranteed to hit with the Fear. So we draw and discard the Path. And I mean, now as it comes back to our turn, remember, any spell is going to be enough Wraiths to turn them into 9/9s. I think I would just Arenicus. I guess just Nazgul, right? On cast, you get the 2 Wraiths, so now they're all 9/9s. And then you make the copy of the Nazgul, comes in, tempts you all the way up. You have 3 counters now going on everything, and now we're just off to the races on a big attack into our opponents with that Fear. And, we have the Deadly Dispute for more draw. Again, not much protection. We didn't see the counter spells or anything like that. But again, we saw basically what the deck wanted to do, right? Playtest 2 here, 3-lander with a couple Nazgul. We see some draw spells, so we can potentially get access to some more mana if we need it. We'll go Path of Ancestry turn 1. Turn 2 here, we'll play the Command Tower, leave up that Cyber Conversion if we need it. Ooh. Nazgul, right? Ring tempts us. Roaming Throne, calling Wraith is my thought. So now this kind of stinks because we didn't hit the 5th mana. Now the question is how far do I want to dig? Do I want to try to consider, surveil 1, I like it, draw, and now we're at the 5 mana we need. So now I drop a Nazgul. Nazgul's ETB ability is going to go off, which is going to tempt us twice, right? We're going to go up to 3, but remember, whenever we tempt, we put a counter on each Wraith control. So each of these are going to basically end up with 4 counters, right? Because each of the Wraiths gets triggered twice, so 2 times 2 equals 4. Now you can get in for some attacks. It's probably guaranteed to hit, which is going to allow us to have to pitch a card. I think I'm willing to probably just pitch the conversion, because now Nazgul probably just gets out of hand, but even Eldrazi Monument probably just gets out of hand here, giving them all flying. Read the Bones could help us potentially hit a land. If we hit a land, then we could Nazgul, but I'm a little bit worried about someone just wiping the board here. I think I'm willing to give up a Nazgul to set myself up for success here. So Eldrazi Monument, they all have flying and indestructible attack. I think that means we're guaranteed to draw and then discard. I think I'll plitch the gaming. So there we draw. We'll get rid of the Nazgul to the Eldrazi Monument. There's the Dark Ritual. So that's going to allow me to play Lord of Nazgul and then still be able to play another spell. About 2 mana left. I really need to play spells, right, to get the 3/3 Wraith. So there's the Wraith. That's actually going to go off twice because of Roaming Throne. I think I'll put the Reliquary Tower at the bottom. And then I can Planar Incision. My thought is almost Nazgul. Planar Incision gets me, again, 2 more Wraiths. If I get this, if I blink the Nazgul, I lose the 5 counters on it, but I come back in and get 2 counters on everything, which feels like the right decision, because then we're spreading the love out more over the entire board. And now we're full up on our this thing. So that play is that Ring Bearer is guaranteed to hit our opponents because of the flying, probably, right? So you hit, draw a discard, and on our turn, right, we just sack a Wraith to keep it out. Dimir Signet, 2 Wraiths, draw 2, land. Just Nazgul. And that's probably just going to be brutal for at least one of our opponents, if not 2 of them. Again, a little bit Christmas landy there, and that we didn't get interacted with, but I think that's the key part about the Eldrazi Monument, is just trying to prevent some of the easiest removal. If somebody removes the Nazgul, or sorry, if somebody removes Lord of the Nazgul, you really don't care, because Nazgul is arguably it's such a big threat, right? And you don't mind having to replay Lord of the Nazgul with the rest of it already, say somebody's swords that are plows, or swords that are paths, right? Playtest 3, keeping a 3-laner here. There's the Birthday Escape, nice ring. Got a couple draw spells. We see the Patchwork Banner, which can help with drawing some cards. Here, get the Patchwork in. So that's a turn 4 Lord of Nazgul. So the point here is now we're just getting access to some more mana. Would have loved to have seen it ran a Nazgul for that Moonlit, but I think you go Chameleon targeting Lord. I've got 2 mana left. We'll Serum Visions. Draw a card, then we scry 2. I think I'm willing to, love the idea of Cover of Darkness, but I think I'm looking for a Nazgul at this point. And then I think I'll just consider, again, 2 more Wraiths, scry 1. And that gets me close with the rest of these here, right? So now, right, Lord of Nazgul can attack. I think one of the Wraiths last turn can attack. Now we're sitting at 7 mana. Come in as a copy of Lord of Nazgul. 7 Wraiths, so a Preordain will make 3 more Wraiths, and then the last one to trigger is going to trigger them to all become 9/9s. There's the Nazgul. That's what we wanted. We'll keep the Quasi-Duplicate on top. Nazgul comes in, puts a counter on all of our Wraiths, and then I think I mediation the Nazgul. Oh, you attack, right? All these guys are going to have flying because of Lord of Nazgul's ability, right? This doesn't feel like a terrible option. The ring tempts us, just causing another counter on everything. And then just take your attacks. And then if somebody wipes the board, it is what it is. But if they don't, we're just in great shape. And this is kind of what intrigues me about Lord of the Nazgul and why I've been really wanting to try it. It's just this idea of still playing this fun Nazgul game, but like trying to find these cheap spells to kind of fund your way up to the top. 3-lander here on Playtest 4 with a Dark Rituals that should allow us to get Lord of the Nazgul down quick. We see a couple other draw spells, right? So I'm thinking Fetid Pools, this, Dark Ritual, so we got a turn 3 Lord of the Nazgul, and that's going to be helpful now because we can start really grinding out some values. Serum Visions, get the Wraith, draw a card, scry 2. Again, I love both the cards, but I really feel like we need mana. I've got 2 mana left. Let's go Impulse. Look at the top 4, put 1 in my hand, the rest on the bottom. I think I'll Sunken Hollow. Play that for turn. Lord Nazgul attacks, but again, now we got more mana. I love the idea of Roaming Throne, but it would just basically lose out our turn. Because my thought here is, you consider Scry 1 or Surveil 1 draw, Sign in Blood. And then I was going to say, do you Splash Portal? Or do we just pitch a card here? I guess you just pitch the Decanter, attack with the Wraiths you can. Oh my gosh, of course we missed the land again. And I can't ring sight for a colorless card, right? Because it doesn't count for ring sight. I almost feel like it's just... Is it just Predator's Hour? Go deep? Splash 4 really doesn't get me anywhere. It's one of those odd hands where we ran out of draw spells and we ran out of... I guess you could Roaming Throne, and then we just hope we get a land next turn, but that feels weird too. What do I get off Ringside? I guess I could technically go get a draw spell off Ringside, right? Because I'd have 1 mana left. What is it? What is the thing that's good? I guess Preordain or Ponder dig pretty deep. You just go for one that starts digging deep, right? It to me just feels weird. And then you Preordain. Scry 2 and then draw. Okay, well there's the Nazgul. And then attack with what you can. This turn Nazgul, put all the counters on. And then what? A Faustic Wisps. Get a Wraith, draw a card. Now they're all 9/9s. And then attack, I guess. Yeah, a little bit awkward there. And then this is the only thing that I'm I would be the most worried about is, do we almost need more single target? Do we really need more 1-2 mana draw spells? Like, do we need to cut out something like Predator's Hour or some interaction like this for just draw spells? Cut out the splash portal for a draw spell, just making sure that you get access to more of it. That's my gut just tells me maybe that's where we need to do with this, is just cut a few more things for some small draw spells, even something you could flashback. There's a couple of draw spells you could flashback. You could think about something like that. I think there's a ton of options, right? But I mean, if anything, I think that's the last kind of real hurdle here, is just the consistency. But to be honest, this is a deck I think would be fun to play. I love the idea of the Nazgul. I love the idea of this kind of go wide, but it cares about spells. There's some really interesting spells you can play, and I don't play a ton of Dimir, so I think it could be interesting. But let me know what you think of Lord of Nazgul down in the comment section below, and I will catch you.